Welcome to our last study for the week as we begin chapter 44, another turning point in the story of Joseph, son of Jacob. There was a great feast in the last chapter in which Joseph finally gets to see his dear brother Benjamin after all these years. The brothers came to get grain, and their plan is to set out the next day. That's their plan anyway. Joseph has other ideas, as we'll see in chapter 44, verses 1 through 10. Now Joseph gave these instructions to the steward of his house. Fill the men's sack with as much food as they can carry, and put each man's silver in the mouth of his sack. Then put my cup, the silver one, in the mouth of the youngest one's sack, along with the silver for his grain. And he did as Joseph said. Now, morning dawned, the men were sent on their way with their donkeys. They had not gone far from the city, though, when Joseph said to his steward, "Go after those men at once, and when you catch up with them, say to them, 'Why have you repaid good with evil? Isn't this the cup my master drinks from and also uses for divination? This is a wicked thing you have done.' When he caught up with them, he repeated these words to them. But they said to him, 'Why does my lord say such things? Far be it from your servants to do anything like that. We even brought back to you from the land of the silver, from the land of Canaan, the silver we found inside the mouths of our sacks. So why will we steal silver or gold from your master's house? If any of your servants is found to have it, he will die, and the rest of us will become my lord's slaves.' 'Very well then,' he said. 'Let it be as you say. Whoever is found to have it will become my slave, and the rest of you will be free from blame.'" Let's end right there. Now, after the brothers get their grain and load up to head back to Canaan, Joseph gives his steward these instructions. First thing they were to do was to put the silver back in their sack. So basically, he doesn't want to take money from his family. The next thing, the steward was told to put the silver cup in Benjamin's sack. Now, this cup does have significance, as we'll see. Third thing, he was to give them a head start towards home and then catch up with them. When he caught up to them, he was going to say to them, "Why have you repaid good with evil?" And then search their sacks for the silver cup. And after finding it, he was to say, "Isn't this the cup my master drinks from, his silver cup of divination? What a wicked thing you have done." So this is the plan that Joseph has for his brothers. Now, Linda Hinton sees this as Joseph continuing to deceive his brothers. We'll save the reasons why he may have done this for the conclusion of our study today. I think we should hold off on that. But for now, I'd like to consider the silver cup that is placed in Benjamin's sack, as there's an interesting history. It has significance. Hinton says that cups of divination were used in Egypt and Mesopotamia back in the day to tell the future. The rituals were performed by mixing oils with water to interpret the water movements or patterns. Now, MacArthur says this was actually called hydromancy. He also said that this was a sacred vessel that would have symbolized as Joseph's authority as vizier. Now, he takes to defending Joseph, MacArthur does. He says that it doesn't mean that Joseph practiced divination, but to me, that's kind of a moot point. Divination was against God's law, but God's law had not been written yet. Later, Joseph will use this cup for a significant reason, not for divination, but he'll use it for a very significant reason. So listen and watch for that as we read. Let's turn our attention to the brothers' reaction now, okay? After they are accused, they say to the steward, "Why would my lord do such things or say such things?" MacArthur points out that the first thing they do is point to their integrity. They sought to return the silver that should have been used to pay for the grain from the first trip. Now, they'd been honest then. Why would they do something dishonest now? Now, the second thing they do is not very smart. They declare death. They declare death upon the one who was caught with it, and the rest of them were to be slaves. Very drastic here. They certainly didn't have to go to that length. But as the Zondervan Study Bible points out, Jacob had made a similar proposal to Laban earlier in Genesis. So basically the apple, as we've heard, doesn't fall far from the tree. The brothers are doing something very similar here. And last, they declare all others, of course, would become slaves. That's interesting to remember because they sold Joseph into slavery. Don't miss that connection. The past connects to the future many times in the story of Joseph, and I suppose it does well. It does in our lives as well. I think that's true. I think there's sometimes when our past does connect in our future, sometimes in the way we love and sometimes in the way we don't like nearly as much. Now, verse 10 here is the fascinating one to me, and I kind of want to pause at what verse 10 says and reflect. The steward says very well, whoever is found to have the cup will become a slave, and the rest are to be free from blame. Now notice how much he softens the brother's offer. Death, first of all, is taken completely out of the picture, but only one is to receive blame, only the guilty. Now to me, this reveals inside information. I believe the steward is fully aware of Joseph's plot. Benjamin is to be singled out even before the search for the cup begins. This sets up the next part of our reading perfectly. And we're going to finish today with chapter 44, verses 11 through 17. Each of them quickly lowered his sack to the ground and opened it. Then the steward proceeded to search, beginning with the oldest and ending with the youngest. And the cup was found in the Benjamin sack. Now at this, they tore their clothes. Then they all loaded their donkeys and returned to the city. Joseph was still in the house when Judah and his brothers came in, and they threw themselves to the ground before him. Joseph said to them, "What is this you have done? Don't you know that a man like me can find things out by divination?" "What can we say to my lord?" Judah replied. "What can we say? How can we prove our innocence? God has uncovered your servant's guilt. We are now my lord's slaves, we ourselves, and the one who was found to have the cup," and that, of course, is Benjamin. But Joseph said, "Far be it from me to do such a thing. Only the man who was found to have a cup will become my slave. The rest of you can go back to your father in peace." Isn't this an interesting story? Now, once again, we have an obvious display here of inside knowledge. The steward searches the sacks by the order of the brothers' ages. Now remember, they were seated at the table during the feast in that same order. And who put them in that order? The steward. So he knew quite a bit about the brothers from Joseph. Now the brothers' reaction is very noteworthy. They tear their clothes. Now the Zondervan Study Bible says this was a sign of their distress and grief. MacArthur says it was a near ancient custom of revealing the pain of the heart. I love that. They revealed the pain of their heart at their brother Benjamin being found with the silver cup. I think this is a very significant moment here. Now MacArthur believes that the brothers pass another test here, another test of devotion to Benjamin. They are distraught when this is discovered. And when they are brought back to the city, they throw themselves on the ground before the vizier, Joseph, their brother. They plead for mercy again, fulfilling the dream of Joseph from so long ago. Consider Joseph's reaction here. Now, he knows what they've done. He knows what he's done too. Now, you and I know they were set up, but the brothers are told by Joseph that he knew what they had done through divination. See, that's where he's using this cup for. Don't you know a man like me can find out things through divination? That was one of the reasons he selected the silver cup. They believe it, of course. Now, remember, Judah is the spokesperson of the brothers at this point. It's not Reuben, the oldest. he steps forward, Judah does, and says, how can we prove our innocence? God has uncovered your servant's guilt. We are now your slaves. The Zondervan Study Bible considers two possibilities. One, Judah spoke better than he knew. I don't think that's the case. Here's what I believe. He was referring both to present and past guilt. In fact, MacArthur and I believe it was the past guilt that he speaks mainly of here. He acknowledged the providence of God in uncovering their guilt from long ago, though he had the perfect opportunity here to shift the blame to Benjamin. He doesn't. To Judah, they were all caught and they had no choice. He stands firm. All would be slaves, including himself. Benjamin would not suffer this punishment alone. They're in this together. The brothers indeed have seemed to change their ways. But you have to remember something here. Judah's not in charge. The brothers have submitted to the vizier in the past, and now it's he who speaks. Far be it from me to do such a thing. Only the man that was found to have the cup will become my slave. The rest of you will return to your father in peace. Now, isn't that interesting? So let's think this through. What's Joseph up to? I mean, obviously, this was the plan all along, for Joseph commanded, what Joseph commanded is exactly what the steward said to them before they returned to the city, even though the brothers thought the punishment should be far higher. So this was the plan all along. Now, who's who in the Bible believes Joseph wants to keep Benjamin in Egypt? That's what they believe. That was the reason behind what Joseph did. And I have to admit, that's the way I thought at one time too, when I first read the story. But I do think that Linda Hinton says it best. The situation Joseph sets up will show him whether the brothers have truly changed. They have an opportunity here. Will they sacrifice Benjamin for their own benefit here? They have a golden opportunity to do now. Now, if that happens, Benjamin's safe with Joseph. He could protect his younger brother in Egypt. What will the brothers do? Well, we're going to have to wait till next week to find out. Of course, you can read ahead. Feel free to do that. But next week, we're going to finish chapters 44 and 45. Until then, may the blessings of our God be upon you. And I hope to see you, by the way, at the Sunday service, the drive-in service at 10 o'clock at the Cross Keys United Methodist Church. Until then, grace and peace.